Welcome back to King of Games. Today is the QBA season finale against the Grav Apples. They're one of the fill-in coaches who joined the league later after people dropped and kept the league up and running. So big thank you to them. I hope you enjoyed the season. I hope you stick around for next season and you get to draft your own team. That should be a lot more fun. Today I'm using a team that's a little bit different for me, going with a little bit different options. But unfortunately, we cannot play on cart. My opponent was having some technical issues, so we played on Pokemon Showdown. If you don't know what that is, it's a website where it's a Pokemon simulator / emulator kind of thing, where you can test your teams, you can test EV spreads. I mostly use it for testing. Some people, I guess, ladder on there trying to see how high they can get, but I mostly use it just to test my teams. But because he had some technical issues with his Switch, we played on there. So I apologize. It's not as exciting a footage as the game is, but we'll go ahead and get into it. Okay, so getting into game number 1. My opponent brought Tyranitar, Rotom Heat, Butterfree, Escavalier, Lapras, and Mimikyu. I'm going to apologize in advance for my erratic decision making. When I play on Showdown, I don't really, I think it's just like a habit of mine where I'm so used to it being like a testing kind of mode that I kind of just rush to decisions and kind of go back and forth on what I want to do. But so I apologize for that. You're going to see me kind of just throw my mouse all over the screen and keep canceling and re-choosing things. But I just don't play as carefully as I do on here, just because you have that option to cancel after you put in your moves, when in the game you do not have that option. So just apologize in advance. For game 1, I'm leading Raikou, Thundurus with Indeedee and Alakazam in the back. I prepped the entire week leading up to this that his lead was going to be Butterfree, Lapras. That's what he had led in previous weeks, and it seemed like a pretty decent matchup against my team with the Aurora Veil. So I was running entirely to stop a special attacker and hit it with my Raikou. Unfortunately, he leads Butterfree, Tyranitar, which Butterfree has Sleep Powder, which is not good to start. It gets Rage Powder to pull my moves, and Tyranitar is really bulky on both special and physical side with the Sandstorm up. And I tried to get rid of it with Rain Dance, but he just sets it right back with Rockfall. Fortunately, he KOs his own Butterfree there. But not a great start to the game, losing my Thundurus so quickly, and them not having any damage on their Tyranitar, basically. So I bring in Indeedee, and they bring in Mimikyu. And right about this time, I realized that they're probably going to go for Trick Room, and I don't have anything to stop that. In the back I've got Alakazam, which is very fast, which means in Trick Room it is very slow, and it's holding a Choice Scarf to make it even slower in Trick Room. So not a great way to start the game. So I go ahead and I max Knuckle into Tyranitar here to try and get that ×4 super effective damage, and because the Sandstorm's up, I talked about it in a previous week, rock types get a +1 basically. They get 1.5 times their special defense in Sandstorm. That is unique to rock types. No other type gets that. Ice types don't get the same advantage in Hail. It's a very powerful buff, and Tyranitar is just ridiculously bulky in the Sandstorm, so I did not prepare for that at all, as you can see here. So I go ahead and protect my Indeedee. They quake into Raikou. There wasn't anything I could really do there. I was going to either lose Indeedee or I was going to lose Raikou. And I chose to lose Raikou, since it was max, last turn of max anyway. Then I thought I could maybe get some kind of comeback going if I got my Choice Scarf on Tyranitar. I don't know how fast their Tyranitar is, and I have no idea what the calcs are. But I thought that if it had a Choice Scarf, it might outspeed my Alakazam and thus be slower in Trick Room. As you can see here, Wait for it. Wait for it. Sorry, I keep getting ahead of the video again. I have a bad habit of that. It doesn't matter. Mimikyu outspeeds me. So, really good game to my opponent there. Big 3-0 to start it. Not great. So now we get into battle number 2. I know that they have the strong trick room option. I don't know why I didn't think about it earlier, seeing the Escavalier and Mimikyu. I really should have just assumed they were going to run trick room. That was a very bad assumption of me to make, that they were not going to. I go ahead and bring the same lead, Raikou, Thundurus, but I have Tauros in the back for Intimidate. Eventually, I'll stick with those decisions. Yeah, so I go Raikou, eventually, Raikou, Thundurus, with Tauros and Registeel in the back. So I lead the same way, he leads the same way. He had a very good game 1, I had a horrible game 1, so he is probably feeling pretty good right now. So I was going to Brick Break into Tyranitar. I realized that was a horrible decision. So I go ahead and I Max Lightning into Butterfree, and I bring out Tauros to lower Tyranitar's attack. As they go for Rage Powder and Max Lightning, I kept targeting the Butterfree because Butterfree gets Sleep Powder, and it gets an ability called Compound Eyes, which increases the accuracy of its moves. So if I did not set up Electric Terrain, then it could probably just put all my Pokemon to sleep. I was very worried that he was going to be running a Choice Scarf Butterfree. That was my biggest concern. But luckily he was not. So that was big for me. So now I double up into Tyranitar with a Max Geyser and a Close Combat, which is 4 times super effective, and it does not even, it does 2/3 to him. So he takes 2 super effective moves, and he's completely fine. So this is a very tough Tyranitar. We had a lot of trouble with it. But I go ahead and Body Press into Tyranitar, and I switch Tauros out for Thundurus. Thundurus isn't on the field right now. So Body Press gets the KO because Registeel has gigantic defense, and then they Will-O-Wisp into the Thundurus. And they bring out their last Pokemon, which is Escavalier. So I'm pretty confident here because both of their Pokemon are physical attackers, and I have Tauros in the back who can just come in anytime to intimidate them. So they try and Will-O-Wisp into the Registeel, and I just Electro Web, just get some small damage on Escavalier and to break Mimikyu's disguise. So I go ahead and I switch Tauros back in just to get the Intimidate off, and I just Electro Web to get some more chip damage on them. So I get the Intimidate, and they go for a Drill Run onto the Tauros, which does not a whole lot, and then they Play Rough into the Thundurus. So they're doing pretty negligible damage, and I still have the ability to switch in and out with a Pokemon in the back, so I'm feeling pretty confident here, and I just go for, I was going to Protect, but I decide to go for damage eventually. Oh no, I do Protect Tauros here, my bad. So I Protect Tauros, and I just Electro Web just to get a little bit more chip damage. I don't know the ranges on my attacks, so I'm just trying to get them to as little as possible. So I go ahead and I Double Edge into the Escavalier, and I switch Registeel into the Thundurus. I went with Double Edge. The other option I had was Body Slam and Giga Impact. Giga Impact I would have to wait a turn before attacking, which is not great. I did not want to do that. So I went with Double Edge because Body Slam just didn't have the damage I wanted. So this turn they set back up the Trick Room. So I switch out into the Thundurus, and I protect my Registeel here. Now I switch in the Thundurus, fully expecting it to just go down here, just so I can get Tauros back in and cycle through another Intimidate. So now both of their Pokemon are at half attack, and they cannot switch out. So at this point, I just go ahead and start going for damage here. I Bulldoze, just to try and get my own weakness policy set up. Eventually. You can see just how erratic I am when I play in Showdown. So I Bulldoze here to try and get my own Trick Room set up, but unfortunately they knock off first, to get my own weakness policy, not Trick Room set up. They knock off first, but even without the weakness policy, Registeel still does plenty of damage to knock out Mimikyu. The crit didn't matter. My Registeel is max attack, and it's super effective, and we got that chip damage on it, so that would have been a knockout regardless. So we go ahead and tank at Drill Run, and then Tauros gets a KO onto the Escavalier to end game 2. Alright, on to game 3. So for game 3, I led a little bit different than I was these past 2 games, because my lead was horrible the past 2 games, so I had to change it. Not that much. I'm not doing the Indeedee Alakazam plan, because that's horrible. Not that one either. Give me a second. It took me a little bit to figure out what I wanted to do. The first game was absolutely horrible, so I didn't want to risk that happening again. The second game I won because of positioning. I think he probably had the better team there, so I wanted to do something a little bit different. Eventually I went with Indeedee Registeel with Raikou and Tauros in the back eventually. I'm going to say that now. Registeel, Indeedee, Tauros, and then eventually Raikou. Give it a second. Eventually. Raikou, there we go. So we start with Registeel and Indeedee. So to start with, I know I was originally thinking of about maxing and steel spiking into their Tyranitar or their Mimikyu. I thought that if I get the defense boost, it would help. I went ahead and changed my mind about that eventually here. So I decided not to max right away, and I body press and follow me into Tyranitar. So they Will-O-Wisp and miss, and I body press and it's protected, so that turn effectively did nothing except take 6% off of Indeedee and Mimikyu. So I was also thinking about max steel spiking this turn, but I decided to hold off on my max. I'm not really threatened at all, so I don't need the additional bulk here. So I go ahead and I protect and switch in Tauros, and then they go ahead and pay back into Tauros and crunch into Tauros, which Tauros has pretty good defense, and they're both intimidated, so he actually handles that pretty well. I was going to switch out to Indeedee. I'm not sure why I was going to do that, but I eventually settle on Steel Spiking into Mimikyu and Bulldozing here to proc my own weakness policy. And I was hoping that Registeel would outspeed Mimikyu after the speed drop. Spoiler alert, that is not what happens. So I do get the weakness policy off. I get the +2 in special attack and attack, and they miss their Will-O-Wisp. So that, I think, was... I got lucky there. Not totally lucky. I mean, they it's 75% accurate and they hit 2 the previous game, so it's not exactly like they were missing all their It's not like they were missing all of their Will-O-Wisps, but that was huge in order to keep my damage output on Registeel. So then this turn I go ahead and I Steel Spike into Tyranitar, and I Double Edge into Rotom Heat, and Tauros is holding the normal gem to boost the first Double Edge. Which I think, yeah, that was shown in the last game. I don't know why I decided to commentate it on this time. I go back and forth a little bit, and eventually I just go back to what I was going to do originally. So I don't really like how Showdown lets you do that, lets you cancel and repick your moves. It's not really accurate to the actual game, so I feel like there's a little bit lost there. But anyway, back to the game. The Double Edge does about 25% to Rotom, and it goes ahead and max flares into Registeel, taking about 40%, which is not great. So I go ahead and I max guard this turn, and I go ahead and I Double Edge into Rotom again, eventually. I know that I can stall out their Dynamax by feinting Tauros here with the Double Edge and max guarding Registeel. So I waste one turn of their Dynamax there, and then I can bring in Indeedee. With Follow Me, Rotom we've seen is faster than Lapras, so I can Follow Me here, and I can take the hit from Rotom with my Indeedee. And then I know for a fact that, especially in the sun, Registeel can take whatever moves Lapras throws at it. So I go ahead and Body Press into the Rotom just to get some damage, and I go ahead and just sacrifice Indeedee here. Get some pretty good damage there, more damage than Tauros was doing with Double Edge. So then I go ahead and bring in Raikou here. So I know they're going to overheat into my Registeel, so I go ahead and protect it. And then even though it's in the sun, it's super effective, so I go ahead and I Scald into the Rotom slot. And then they take some time to pick the move, obviously. Yeah, so I go ahead and protect, get the Scald off. It does about 25%, so not bad at all there. And then they overheat, which doesn't do a whole lot, or it doesn't do anything because I'm protected. And then they Ice Beam, which doesn't do a whole lot. So I go ahead and I Body Press into the Lapras for maximum damage, and I Scald into the Rotom for maximum damage. So they go ahead and protect their Rotom here. So Scald does not knock it out, and then Body Press does a huge amount of damage to Lapras here, but we find out that it's weakness policy. And then they Ice Beam, but we were holding the Assault Vest on Raikou, so we actually take that pretty well. I was originally going to Body Press in the Lapras and Scald Rotom Heat here. I went ahead and changed it up in just a second. So I go ahead and I keep the Body Press into the Lapras slot. But my concern here was that if they ally switched and Lapras was water absorbed, then I could be healing it. So I went ahead and just targeted it with the Rising Voltage in case they ally switched, which they did not. And we take game 3, 2-0, and we win the set 2-1. So really good game there. Alright, so really good set there. My opponent brought some things that I was not prepared for. I don't know why I wasn't prepared for the Tyranitar, but I spent the whole week preparing for Lapras as their max option, and I really should have considered more. But we did a pretty good job pulling it together there at the end, and using what we had to the best of my ability. So I'm going to go ahead and go over the team that I used for this week's game. So first up was Raikou with an Assault Vest, max speed, max special attack with Inner Focus as the ability. Rising Voltage, Aura Sphere, Scald, and Bulldoze. So Rising Voltage, I figured if I set up Electric Terrain with maxing, or if their Lapras set up Electric Terrain with maxing, then I could just wipe out their whole team with Rising Voltage off Raikou. Aura Sphere actually was for the Tyranitar, but I didn't calc it at all, and we could see at the first game just how pitiful that damage really was. Scald was for Rotom, and it was to overwrite their weathers. And then Bulldoze was there to proc Registeel's weakness policy. The next Pokemon was Thor the Thunderous with safety goggles. Max HP, max defense with, I think it's Calm. Yeah, I think that's Calm nature. And Prankster is the ability. Electroweb, Brick Break, Eerie Impulse, and Rain Dance. Once again, Eerie Impulse was there for the Lapras lead, and Brick Break was there to break their Aurora Veil. And then Electroweb was just there for general speed control. I didn't really consider the Trick Room option, in which case Electroweb became useless. And then Rain Dance was to get rid of Sandstorm, which did not last very long. Third is Registeel with the weakness policy. Max HP, max attack with 1 point in special defense. Clear Body is the ability. With Protect, Iron Head, Thunder Punch, and Body Press. Thunder Punch was the best max move I had for Lapras, and it would set up Electric Terrain for Raikou. Body Press was for outside of max if I got some defense boosts with Max Steel Spike. And then obviously Iron Head is just its best physical stab move. The fourth Pokemon was Indeedee with the Focus Sash. Same one I use every single week. No changes here. Follow Me, Helping Hand, Expanding Force, Protect. It was holding a Focus Sash this week. Next up is Alakazam, because I always bring Alakazam. Choice Scarf, max special attack, max speed with a modest nature, and Magic Guard is the ability. Expanding Force, Shadow Ball, Energy Ball, and Trick. I figured that if I was running against Trick Room, I could trick the Choice Scarf onto things, but Alakazam is still so fast that it would still be slower than them, so that was very poorly thought out. Alakazam was kind of a wasted spot this week, but it got brought, so I'm happy for it. And then last up was Boldy the Tauros with a normal gem, max HP, max speed with a jolly nature, and Intimidate as the ability. With, I didn't change this in game. Body Slam should be Double Edge. With Double Edge, Close Combat, Bulldoze, and Protect. Double Edge was its best physical move that didn't have like the recharge turn. So even though it got recoil, it was, I think, the better move, and I was able to use that to my advantage in game 3. Close Combat was for Tyranitar, which we used once, and it did not do the damage I was hoping it would. Bulldoze was to proc Registeel's weakness policy, and then Protect to protect. So that was the team I was running this week. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game. I'll do my outro now. Thank you very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the game. I apologize for it being on Showdown versus on the actual game itself. I hope that wasn't too off-putting. Hopefully this will be the last time, at least for the QBA season. As I mentioned before, this was the season finale, so next up is the playoffs. Fortunately, thanks to this win, I've clinched the number 2 seed in the playoffs, which gives us a bye week. So next week I will be posting a Series 10 team that I've been making. I've got one with Ho-Oh, one with Dialga, and one with Zamazenta. I'm not sure which one I'm going to post yet. If you have a preference, go ahead and put it down in the comments below. I'd like to hear what people are thinking, and I think all 3 teams are pretty fun. I like to use the quote-unquote bad restricteds first. I don't really want to hop on the Zacian train or Xerneas train. I like to use the ones that are being used less and try and get the most I can out of them. I have made Master Ball with these teams, so yeah, just let me know which one you want to see. I'm excited to show all 3. If I don't hear anything, I'll probably do the Ho-Oh team first, just because Ho-Oh is my favorite restricted. But I'm flexible. Just let me know. Thank you very much for watching. Big shout out to my opponent. He has a YouTube channel as well. I will post it in the description, and I will put a card here. Definitely check out his videos. I just recently started watching his videos, but they're all really interesting. He's got some really cool teams. He actually has his own Ho-Oh team that is different than mine, but it's a really cool team. So if you want, go check it out. And again, thank you so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Thank you.